Hey, 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 welcome back. Another episode, Go Fund Yourself. Today, I think it's 80, episode 80, or something close to that.
I have no idea why you think it's 80. We're at like 86.
Oh.
Yeah, yesterday was 85, so pretty sure it's 86.
Awesome. Well, ignore me then. But I do need to fix my sound. There we go. Okay, perfect. So, yeah, it's Thursday. It's been an interesting week. We saw some dump in the markets yesterday.
I did.
Maybe we'll talk a little bit about why that could have happened. I'm not 100% sure. It's mainly speculation. What else are we talking about?
We're actually going to talk about Russia a lot. That was not my intention, but they had a bunch of big crypto news that kind of got washed over because of the SEC news. So we're going to jump on that. We're going to talk a little bit about other parts of we're going to talk about the actual EU, but some people consider Russia to be part of Europe. So just to not get confused there, we're going to touch on Russia. And then we're also going to touch on China. China has a couple things going on. If we get through all that, we will talk about America, but hopefully not.
America. All right. Today, shout out to our friends at Metis. One of my favorite shirts. Love it.
Yeah, it's cool.
Super soft. Fits nicely. But just a shout out. I saw that they were really pushing their Metis Africa, which is really cool.
That's right.
I think they've got a pretty good contingent of people in Africa currently that are supporting the brand, and they're building out infrastructure and tooling and stuff for developing nations. So really interesting.
They have a good LATAM group too, really active.
Yeah. They're trying to focus on some of the underserved markets, I think, and creating meaningful opportunities for those people. So super.
They're also just nice. Have you met them? They're also nice.
Yeah, they're amazing. I've been on a few panels with them, and we did a joint event once. And
that's right. That's right. We were at Metis Fest. Yeah, I forgot you were there. I was thinking Alex was there. And they're just nice.
It's easy to forget when I'm around.
Yeah, I
get it.
Usually forget about you, JD.
All right, fuck it.
Okay.
Let's go. All right, we are back.
You're muted on Spaces.
Oh man. Okay. All right, we're back. BCP's here. What's up?
We got
Nikki again. Holy smokes! We got people waiting for the stream today.
Exciting. All right, we got to start with India.
India.
We're starting with India. So basically, India. A few months ago, we reported on what their stance was, and they basically said, it's up to you to stay safe in the crypto markets. We are not regulating this. We do not care. We think it's a scam, but it's up to you. Do what you want with your money. That being said, in February of 2022, they also introduced a 30% tax on all crypto profits and a 1% tax deducted on all transactions, essentially. So they're like, we're not regulating it, but we do want your money. We're not going to tell you to stop, but we will take your money. It's a scam, but the government isn't, is what they're saying. So what we're seeing now is over a year later, about 18 months later, a lot of crypto groups aren't doing so good. And some of them were trying to survive in America as well. And now with the SEC, they don't know what they're going to do. So if you are with CoinDCX, WazirX, CoinSwitch, ZebPay, BuyUcoin, Giotis, or anyone like that, you might want to take a look at what their longevity is. You might want to take a look at what their long run is, because a lot of them are saying that they only have 21 months to 4 years to go.
Yeah, I mean, okay. So first of all, to put this in perspective, taxes on crypto in Canada, even with the 50% capital gains exclusion, is still close to 30%.
Absolutely.
So, so this isn't like, it's not like prohibitively high taxation. It probably is relative to what most people in India are used to paying. Specifically, a lot of people that participate in crypto markets may or may not be at the higher ends of the marginal tax rates. So they probably are paying a little bit more than they otherwise would on other investments and vehicles. This is kind of an interesting one coming out of India. Something for the last 5-6 years. The China FUD there's also been India FUD. India's been pro-crypto, anti-crypto, pro-crypto.
Yeah, we're starting and ending on FUD today. India going on a world tour and then China.
So Thursdays Thursdays are our crypto arms race. So we talk more about like what different jurisdictions and countries are trying to do to attract crypto business and
or dissuade crypto business
or dissuade crypto business. I mean, most of this stuff coming out of India, I actually don't think is that big of a deal. What this actually tells me is that those exchanges just don't have enough volume. They might have a lot of users because there's over 1 billion people that live in the country, but they might not have enough volumes to make decent revenues. And there's multiple exchanges. So I think they're probably most likely we'll see some restructuring and maybe some
like mergers and acquisitions or something.
Yeah,
but the reason that I think this is interesting is because the Indian government has actively said we aren't regulating, but we are taxing. And it's kind of an interesting spot to be in if you are trying to be an active trader or a business there, because you don't get any support, but then you do have to pay a lot. And I don't know, that kind of sucks. At least in Canada, we have like the RCMP contingent who's looking out for our well-being.
I roll my eyes at that.
Was it in Calgary that we had the?
It was, It was Calgary Police, actually, not RCMP. But
my bad.
The RCMP was talking about doing something nationally. Yeah. But I mean, again, it's like anything, right? Like if you go to the police for somebody stole something out of your garage, I mean, effectively they just write a report and you claim it on insurance. Yeah. Like
now they can do that for crypto.
Yeah, but I don't think crypto counts as your homeowner's under your homeowner's insurance in Canada. But I guess we'll find out. Anyways, India, get your poop in a group. I think the exchanges, this to me just suggests that the business model of these exchanges doesn't work. So
I just wanted to start off FUD, and it's kind of a good thing to note because if you have any assets in those, you're probably going to want to look at their longevity. They're even saying that themselves. So just backing that up.
If they're saying 21 months to 4 years,
I mean, 2 months.
Probably cut that in half. Yeah, like that's just pure speculation. I don't know that. Obviously, with no regulation, Indian participants have access to all of the other global exchanges. Well, not all of them, but the vast majority of
every
them.
Exchange.
It's using an India-specific exchange for people from India. Maybe they have different customer service. It's better integrations with the banking on and off ramps. I'm not sure. But beyond that, they're not limited to exchanges in India. So those exchanges have to offer something that attracts users, which sounds to me like they're not doing currently. So hopefully they can figure that out.
Okay, we're going to talk about the EU. We got a few EU things that are kind of coming up. So the first one that hit news a lot yesterday is that some AI restrictions came out at the same time that they were debating the digital euro. I want to make it really clear that these two items are not considered the same on the docket. It was two separate discussions. A lot of the news that you're seeing on Twitter and in our funny spaces is that they're limiting AI on crypto already. That is not what's happening at all. They just had two separate discussions at the same time because that's the group they have it with. So basically, from an AI perspective, just for your news, they are looking at limiting what AI can be used for. So they don't want it to be harmful. They basically don't want it to be used in elections, healthcare, that kind of thing, because they don't want people to get up a lot of misinformation. Because as you know, the way that our AI language models work right now is they just keep amalgamating the information and they can hallucinate and it's not always real. So that's what the AI one was about. But the digital euro one is actually really interesting to us because it's about how and who might accept a digital euro and also why they might accept a digital euro, which is a CBDC. JD, tell us how much you hate CBDCs.
I love them. I think they're the greatest thing ever. And by that, I mean, I fucking hate them. CBDCs are, in my opinion, is a giant slippery slope. And it's a very steep one. I don't think it'll take very long from, we're just making life easier to, we started freezing accounts and we've started blocking transfers and we started taxing directly from your crypto accounts instead of, you having to elect to pay taxes. I think it's a very slippery slope. I'm not a huge fan, although I think it is happening. It's going to happen no matter how bad we don't want it to happen. I think many central banks are going to do CBDCs. And so as a consequence, if the country that you live in is considering CBDCs, please engage policymakers, lawmakers. Like that's the only way that we can have any influence is if enough people start sending letters and calls and all this stuff. And we're seeing that in America. We're seeing a lot of activity now around what the hell is going on from a regulation perspective.
My mom asked me about CBDCs last week, which means it is a real issue to the average person now. Okay, there is a little bit more on this. Why do I have to wait? Why can't you wait?
Because I don't wait very well.
Neither do I. Which of us is least patient? All right, go ahead.
Okay, but it's just on the AI thing. I'd love to hear what Elon has to say about this, because I think he's probably been one of the most sober minds on AI for years, suggesting that AI is amazing and there's a lot of incredible use cases for humanity. But at the same time, there is a circumstance at Singularity where, in fact, it could be AGI, and it could, in fact, be smarter and more powerful than all of the human race combined. And that is concerning. My challenge with these types of regulations, I think it's great. I think we do need to start doing something to protect society from AI. I just think that the relatively loose language around, oh, can't be involved in an election. Okay. Define being involved in an election. Like, are you going to...
We didn't go through all of it. They are defining that.
They are. But again, the definitions, in my opinion, are going to be incredibly hard for them to delineate
and then enforce
what's acceptable and what's not. And then how do you enforce it? Exactly. Yeah. So, again, we got to see someone put their neck out there and try to figure this out. Leave it to the EU. I mean, they're going for crypto regulation with MiCA.
No, we're not there yet. So CBDCs.
Almost, it's the next one.
No, CBDCs.
Oh.
This is really interesting because we talk about...
I had a good transition there.
Yeah, you can't have it today. So that's why I said I have stuff to say.
Okay.
We talk a lot about how CBDCs are about power and control. And on this show, we have also talked a lot about the de-dollarization of the US dollar, maybe the balkanization of the US dollar. And the head of the Digital Euro project, Panetta, is also very concerned about the destabilization or the balkanization of the euro with crypto. So this is interesting because we usually talk about the US dollar being de-dollarized because of other fiat currencies, whereas what Europe is really concerned about is the destabilization of the euro and the de-euroization, the de-dollarization of the euro based on crypto assets. And so they're basically saying that if we don't come out with our own sovereign coin, someone else is going to. They're alluding to USDC and USDT, right? And so they're saying, oh, well, that we're seeing all of these other assets come out and we need to stay in control of that, because we already are at we've already been short-sighted about our fiat system, as the majority of our retail payments go through Visa and MasterCard, not our own banks, not our own currency, and not a company that has its headquarters here in Europe. So they're really thinking about a broader monetary strategy and how they're going to essentially localize their currency back, which is something that we don't talk about CBDCs a lot. We talk about how we don't like them for retail. We talk about the power and control, but this is also like taking money away from other parts of the world that has brought their money into Europe.
Yeah, I want to poo-poo on that parade in one phrase. First of all, Circle has a Euro C, which is a stable coin denominated in euros. Mm-hmm. The existence of USDT, USDC, and Euro C has absolutely literally zero impact on monetary policy in those countries. Why? Because for every Euro C in existence, for every USDC in existence, a dollar or a euro is correspondently locked in a contract in custody. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't change anything with respect to the money supply. It doesn't change anything with de-euroization or de-dollarization. That all has to do with geopolitical and global trade items. And they're using that as a bit of a bait and switch, in my opinion, because the vast majority of people probably wouldn't understand those important critical details. What?
Crypto allows for more cross-border transactions without any regulation, which means that the Euro C or the USDC does in fact impact our monetary policy, because now we're not in control of what those assets are doing or where they're going, and we can't tax them.
But that's not the monetary policy. That, in my opinion, that's your trade tariffs and all of that shit. Like, all you can do with SWIFT.
It's not part of monetary policy?
Yes and no. Monetary policy really is controlling inflation, interest rates, money supply, etc.
Right.
Well, that has nothing to do with those assets going cross-border.
Connected.
Yeah, not really.
Okay.
I mean, someone can argue with me. I'm happy to have the debate and conversation. But this, to me, is just a very weak argument in support of transitioning to a CBDC, which, as we all know, I'm not a huge fan of. So maybe I'm biased. Who knows? Oh, Kiara froze. At least you got a smile on your face this time. Sometimes when you freeze, it's an interesting look. Okay, so we got Breezy here. Evie, what's up? Sup? Thanks for joining, guys. We are going to move on in the absence of Kiara being able to talk. This is great. I get all the airtime now. High five for that, everybody. But next, we're going to talk about MiCA. So the EU enacts MiCA. There is, in their opinion, fairly clear guidelines now, clear regulatory structures in the EU for crypto. Yeah, we lost Kiara, but she's going to come back. So this has now become official law. So this is a comprehensive guidance for the market. In theory, service providers and asset issuers and so on all have obligations now and responsibilities generally if you're serving EU clients. What does this mean? I think it means if you run a protocol and you have a single person in the EU that is one of your clients or holds your token, you should be darn sure you understand what MiCA now is going to require you to do. As a user, I think it's important we should understand what the vendors and what the companies that and protocols that we're using should be adhering to, and make sure to a certain extent that they are. Because if you use a platform that is not adhering, it's going to be very difficult to get the protection that you expect via regulation if something goes sideways. So, I mean, to me, this is kind of good. I don't hate MiCA. I don't love MiCA, but I think it's definitely an acceptable step in the right direction. Hopefully, it becomes a bit of a testing ground, a bit of a case study rather quickly for other jurisdictions globally to be able to make some decisions. And so, I mean, the SEC, hopefully they're paying attention. They're saying, hey, let's see what adoption is. Let's see what the transition looks like. And let's see if there's meaningful consumer protection. Kiara's back. There she is.
You know, JD, I'm able to stay on Spaces because it's on mobile, but you can't hear me.
Yeah, that's true. So you could hear me talking. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good thing I didn't make any like mean jokes.
Yeah, geez, for once. You usually just.
But anyways, oh, you're right. But anyways, MiCA. So yeah, I mean, I think this is definitely a step in the right direction. Do we love regulation? If you would have asked me a few years ago, I would have said absolutely not. I still don't love it, but I think it's happening whether we want it to or not. So let's figure out how we can have some influence. Yeah, exactly. Have some influence over it. You know, make sure we thoroughly understand it. Make sure you, whether you're just a user or whether you are an entrepreneur in the space, make sure you're talking to your attorneys and make sure that you've got someone that understands MiCA and what your obligations are.
Arguably, Binance is doing just that. They are moving towards the EU and out of other regions like America and Cyprus. They just announced that in light, I don't know how related this actually is, but the news says that in light of MiCA being passed and they're looking at the CBDC and basically regulatory clarity, that they are going to pull out of other places, including Cyprus, which they've only been in for 1 year.
Yeah. I mean, Cyprus used to be a really attractive safe haven, so to speak, for crypto registrations. And then as time went on, like it was actually one of the best jurisdictions for the longest time. And up until quite recently, that was the case. But over the last year, they've, out of necessity, I think, as with most other global jurisdictions, they've had to kind of go back on that a little bit and make sure that there's some protections in place to keep their international relations up, et cetera, et cetera. So Binance, yeah, I think they say that it's in response to MiCA. I think it's probably a combination of a whole bunch of things. I mean, they're in deep doo-doo with the SEC at the moment. Excuse me. And so they're probably trying to figure out how to insulate the rest of the business from some of that and making sure that it's compliant in other areas of the world. CZ probably wants to have somewhere he can go beyond the UAE also. So maybe having a company in the EU that abides by the rules is a good thing. Who knows?
Maybe you can travel again, get on a plane.
Again, I think we're going to see more and more of this. The largest participants, even the ones that have been so vocally against regulation, are, whether they like it or not, whether we like it or not, it is coming. So we might, again, same suggestion. It's coming no matter what. So we might as well, endeavor to understand it, endeavor to influence it, and be a part of hopefully be a part of the change.
You know who else the US is regulating and enforcing upon right now?
Russia!
Yeah, they're charging 2 Russians for hacking Mount Gox in 2014. This is a long time coming. I don't know why America has jurisdiction over the Russians in this case. Maybe you do. I don't. But if you have been looking for validation since 2014, you're finally getting it, I guess.
Sort of. They've pressed charges. Again, the U.S. can press charges if one or more U.S. persons were impacted by something. So that's where they have jurisdiction here. I highly doubt that the Russians, if they're in Russia, are going to have an extradition treaty actually respected between the U.S. and Russia, given that we're holding prisoners of each other's countries currently, and
Yeah.
we have fairly.
I feel like this isn't going to be high priority.
Yeah, probably not. I mean, 2014, like that, it was a long time ago. There's been a lot of nonsense. They started now releasing some of the funds to the holders, like almost 10 years later. People that had funds stuck in Mt. Gox, they've started to move some of those funds and release some of that stuff. I always found it kind of surprising that it took 10 years to figure out who did this. Either they were super, super sophisticated, or we didn't try that hard.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
On
But
this same weird hacking space,
yep.
Someone has hacked some Russian security agencies, stolen their Bitcoin, and sent it to Ukraine as relief effort.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're seeing a lot of really interesting conflicting media reports out of both Russia and Ukraine.
Of course.
Who blew up Nord Stream?
Yeah.
Was it the US? Was it the Ukraine? It surely wasn't Russia, but everybody obviously is pointing the fingers at Russia for blowing up their own pipeline. Doesn't make sense to me. Same thing with the dam. There was a dam that was now destroyed that caused a lot of problems. The Ukrainians are blaming it on Russia. Russia's saying, why would we do this? Like it's our own property. It's our own infrastructure. Anyways, this I think is just another one of those things that we probably won't ever know if this is just some nonsense that.
And you know what? We don't need to know.
We don't need to know. The cool thing about I guess not the cool thing, but again, all of these assets that were stolen, the Bitcoin that was stolen will be tracked. It'll be eventually marked as stolen. You won't be able to use it anywhere. It'll end up with those wallets being on sanctions lists. Like, I mean, again, getting away with this stuff today is orders of magnitude more difficult than even a couple of years ago, thanks to friends of ours like Chainalysis, Elliptic, TRM, many of the other on-chain forensic firms. Is, it's pretty sophisticated now. So definitely interested.
All right.
Before we move on from hackers, I don't know if you guys saw Anonymous Sudan yesterday. This is what I think started to impact the markets. I'm not sure what actually did. I mean, they paused. FOMC was a pause for interest rates, so no hike. The Dow dumped a little bit leading into it and then made its way back up after that. Whatever. I think most people had already priced that in to a great extent. Most people expected a pause given the unemployment numbers and inflation numbers that came out previously. All of that being said, Anonymous came out and said within the next 48 hours, there's going to be the largest hack of EU banking institutions in history.
Right.
And they're not saying anything else really, other than there's a whole bunch of global hacking communities, anonymous from a ton of different countries, that are all kind of going after different institutions and are doing it in a very coordinated fashion. Is this legit? No idea. But if it is legit, and if they in fact are able to a certain extent hijack the European banking system, that could cause some disaster for the market. So
all right.
Hackers drive me crazy, but there are some fairly sophisticated people in the world. I sure hope that someone stops this.
Got one more, Russia, which is a really big deal. So Iran and Russia were at the 15th International Financial Industry Exhibition, FINEX, and they actually brought out a new tool, if you will. So they have worked together to create a banking guarantee letter. The idea is that both Iran's bank and Russia's Sberbank are trying to streamline trade via their international currency. This is interesting. And it's a little bit wild to see them working together. It tells me that Iran is probably going to join BRICS right away.
I would assume so. Russia and Iran have been big partners. Russia gets a lot of their drone technology from Iran, as far as I understand, and vice versa. There's a lot of technology provided to Iran from Russia, military technology. So they've got a tight relationship. Obviously, oil and other natural resource trading is big between the two countries.
Okay, but the thing that's interesting here is that they aren't doing it with crypto. They're not doing it on chain. They've come up with a banking guarantee letter at a fintech exhibition. That is not very forward thinking, and it's weird because they are both experimenting with cross-border CBDC payments.
So what's interesting about this is that kind of already exists in something called SBLC, a standard banking letter of credit. That's kind of what that is, and that generally facilitates global transactions with respect to resources, because some of it you pay when a vessel leaves the country, a portion, and then there's an inspection when the country, like obviously before that, then there's an inspection when it gets to the destination, and then you pay generally the remainder of the outstanding contract value. But in the meantime, you have to prove that if we're going to put all of these resources on a ship and send them across the bloody world, we need to know that you have the assets and that those assets are still going to be there when it lands in its destination. So this already exists. The challenge is nobody respects, generally speaking, SBLCs that come from Russia or Iran or any other small bank. And because of all of the tariffs and trade restrictions and banking and SWIFT restrictions, they can't participate with the large scale banks that could give SBLCs in the same way. So this to me is like not a massive innovation. I think it's just a response to a problem that they currently have to facilitate global trade and trust between the two nations. I think it's great though. I mean, I think it's great in the sense that it's going to force us globally to start thinking about different ways to approach global trade and to approach tariffs and all of these other things, embargoes, whatever, because more now than ever before, these countries are responding by saying, okay, you don't want to play nice, then beat it. We're going to go do this over here. Yeah.
We're also seeing a different, in a way, world power come into play with Ripple. We've been talking about how Visa and MasterCard are typically the primary payments, but Ripple has set themselves up in such a way that they are going to be kind of the primary providers of the infrastructure for CBDCs. And they're doing a really good job at signing people onto that. And just before we started our episode, I got a news notification about this one where Ripple and Colombia are starting, and they are going to be doing essentially an education and pilot project until the end of 2023. So for a few more months. And that's hot, brand new news.
Yeah, this is exciting. It's good for Ripple. Again, I'm a bit of a Ripple supporter. I don't own any Ripple. I don't have a horse in the race, but I do like Brad quite a bit. And I think what they're doing for the space in fighting for clarity around regulation, whether they win or lose, I think is incredibly admirable. So I want them to win. My only caution here is that this claim that Ripple is going to be the global leader in CBDCs is one made by Ripple.
Yeah, it totally is.
They're saying we're going to be the world leader. I think there's probably quite a few other ecosystems.
I don't know. I think they've signed on the most countries so far.
They absolutely have. They are definitely winning.
Yeah.
Are they going to win in the end? Who knows? I hope they win, but I don't think there's going to be one single solution for global CBDCs. I think we're probably going to see many. But I think what Ripple's doing, catering to the central banks, catering to the educational institutions, we talked about this the other day, they're really embedding themselves in the social structure and financial infrastructure of many major countries. Most of policy and decision-making comes, in part from academia. They're starting to have a big influence in spending a lot of money on academia. I think this is great. I think this is exactly what we need to see globally, is some of these larger entities supporting, traditional structures and traditional access points to finance and policy. And I think that's exactly what Ripple's doing. So it's a good example. Anybody that wants to become a global leader, They've more or less spelled out the playbook. Other than, I wouldn't advise that you get in a multiple-year lawsuit with the SEC.
Oh yeah, that's probably not great for the business.
Probably not.
Let's just touch on China to wrap up. There's a few things that you're seeing come out of China in the news right now. And basically what the gist of this is that because the Chinese government is investing in crypto and the Chinese banks are investing in crypto, they're maybe going to reverse the actual retail crypto ban as well.
Yeah. Again,
that's
this
a short story.
I always find this kind of funny. Bank of China is issuing securities on Ethereum. So obviously it's hard to continue with the crypto ban if you yourself are issuing securities on the blockchain. But this, like, I'll believe it when I see it, when there's meaningful adoption, which I think we're starting to see some of, obviously, with issuing assets on ETH.
Which is in Hong Kong, which is technically a different regulatory jurisdiction,
yeah,
but also is often
the Bank of China
of what they're going to do. Yeah, exactly.
So we'll have to wait and see. I mean, I think I'm just a little bit jaded because for the entire time that I've participated in this space, which is a decently long amount of time, this has always been a narrative. Oh, yeah. China bans crypto. China unbans crypto. China arrests people and seizes all their assets, and you don't hear from them for months, and then they reappear and say nothing about it. Like, I mean, hopefully this is a good sign. I think it is. In the wake of all of the negative approach that the US is taking, I think we're seeing a lot of these other jurisdictions, especially our major trade competitors and major global competitors, saying, hey, we're going to embrace this. We're going to welcome the technology. We're going to lean into it, and we'll show you guys what you missed out on. I really wanted to talk about BlackRock today, just so you guys know we're not immune to what BlackRock came out with today, but we'll talk more about it tomorrow. We did see it. It's pretty interesting. I don't want to brush over it. There's a whole bunch of implications in what BlackRock is doing. So if you're going to join us tomorrow, same place, same time.
BlackRock deep dive.
BlackRock deep dive. Well, maybe not deep dive, but we have a lot of thoughts on BlackRock. And so same place, 12:30 Eastern, every day, every weekday, Monday to Friday, always. Even
constantly, never ending
on major holidays, with the exception of probably New Year's, Christmas, and like that's probably
I think we skipped Easter this year.
Yeah, maybe Easter.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Anyways, if you guys can help us share the love, please, that would be super appreciated. We don't advertise, we don't take any payment for the podcast. We're really doing it to try to help connect with people and help educate and make understanding and navigating the space a little bit better. So in order to help us,
bring a friend to listen, but also no, for real, mostly so that you can tell us when you don't agree, because we are here trying to dispel the FUD. And if you think we're being super fuddy about something, you should let us know.
Absolutely. Send us a note. We see all of them. We will respond either while on air or on the next episode if it's something that wasn't covered back and forth just via chat. But anyways, like, share, subscribe. And if you're on Twitter, Twitter Spaces in particular, or even the videos on Twitter, please bookmark them. We're on Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitch.
You can dream it. We're there.
Twitter.
We're in your dreams.
We're freaking everywhere.
Right.
So anyways, help us spread the love. You guys have a great day. Kiara, go
FUD yourself.
yourself. Later.